If money and time wasn't a problem, then what would you do? Would you go and try that new restaurant downtown? Explore the world in all its beauty? Or maybe something as simple as screaming your lungs out at karaoke? But the sad truth is, so many people think that experiencing life is just these grand moments that you put on social media for all to be envious of. And if it ain't that, then what's the point? And they stayed glued to their usual schedule, letting the days turn to weeks and the weeks to years with no adventure or change. Everyone has things in life they want to try and do, but sometimes you lose sight of it, and for our main character Akira, that was all due to the fact of what he thought was his dream job, instead becoming his living hellscape. I really love how Akira went from being a mindless zombie in his own right, being at an exploitive company, working to the point where you had a contest on who could come the closest to death without kicking the bucket, falling in love with a coworker, with them being the shining light to hold on to every day during your daily torment, only to be cucked and knowing that she's being used by the manager for his stress relief. With the mix of all of it spiraling him downward, leaving him on the verge of saying peace to chat and isekaiing himself with a train. To then his saving grace being a zombie outbreak. And it's wild how Akira's first reaction to the literal end of the world being, so no work today, right? And he then is filled once again with life and joy. And a quick side tangent. I really love how it's all in black and white, one, to hide the blood and the sense of mystery, and two, how it reflected Akira's life, so dull and dead, with nothing to bring a splash of color. Hell, even movies to him was just brain rot at that point. Akira now, with all this rediscovered time, his mind is flooded with ideas and things he wanted to do, but couldn't because of his stint in hell at work, with the biggest being to go and confess his feeling to his coworker. After speeding through town, Akira finally arrives at her apartment, and to his realization, his boss is also there. And in such an empowering moment, Akira faces down the source of his torture and politely resigns his position by tossing his boss out the window. And to his dismay, Akira finds his crush has already been infected. But the thing about doing things is it may not always go the way you expect. But the main point is just doing it. And Akira pours his feelings out to the woman who once was his beacon of hope, with this action being the starting point of him wanting to do everything else he desired to do before becoming a zombie. I think it was such a relief when Akira started making his list of 100 things to do before becoming a zombie that he didn't fill it solely with such crazy things like go to Europe or make $1 million. It was smaller, simpler things like buy a big ass TV, binge eating at a sushi joint, and ride in an RV, with larger goals sprinkled in, showcasing a nice balance in life, with smaller things that anyone can do whenever and have such amazing feelings from. And the bigger goals that when finally reached are the most satisfying. Because for some reason now, it feels like the motto go big or go home has just been blanketed over every aspect of life. So for Zom 100 to show the joys of simple goals, it's really nice. And on his first day of apocalyptic life, after cleaning up his filth-ridden apartment, which is honestly such a nice touch, as it shows how relieved he is mentally, being able to just declutter, Akira decides to do one of the most American things, and just crack open a cold one and starts day drinking, King of the Hill style. But when the booze starts a-flowing, it eventually runs out. So, as any sane person would do in a city swarming with zombies, Akira decides to go for a beer run. And honestly, to some surprise, but not really, the damn Kombini has been left untouched. I swear, this place is the equivalent to a temple for foreigners. While within, Akira runs into an unknown woman, picking up supplies and tries to make some small talk and get her number, but is met with a cold shoulder and reprimanded on not prioritizing supplies. After the two part ways, Akira sits down to really flesh out his list and comes up with 30 things. But while reflecting, he realizes the most important of them all is to see his folks again and to make up for lost time, and as well wanting to go see them with his best friend and finally meeting the woman of his dreams. Zom 100 Bucket List of the Dead was one of the standout animes of last year, with its colorful visuals and humorous take on the zombie genre, going more the direction of Shaun of the Dead rather than The Walking Dead. Have at the end of the world seeming fun, like a road trip with your friends and the shenanigans that come with having no responsibility. With a healthy range of characters and their personalities is a fun aspect with them not falling into a one-note stereotype. Except for the otaku. My favorite of the character combos is Akira and his college best friend Kenshiro, as they are just college bros living that life, laying around most days, playing video games and eating their fill. And their dynamic is such homey energy. Like, take the scene of Akira saving the group of civilians after obtaining a bite-proof shark suit. And while doing so, he's dogpiled by zombies. And his bro's reaction to this is basically, "You're fine, dude, I don't need to go out there cause you've got this," and slams the door shut, leaving his friend to fend for himself. Which is such a perfect foil to Shizuku, who instead of seeing this as a time of kicking back, she instead is solely focused on survival in the most analytical way, putting needs over wants, which is contradictory to a bucket list, just purely based on wants. But sometimes, needs and wants cross over, and the one that struck a chord with me the most was his goal of repaying back his parents. Most kids have that feeling of wanting to do something special for the person or people that gave them everything they could need and want to the best of their abilities. And so Akira journeys back to his hometown. And what I think is the most emotional moment of the series is while on his way, Akira and the group run into a carpenter who happens to live in the same town Akira grew up in, and is in the process of constructing a treehouse in order to have a safer position from the zombies. With Akira jumping in to help because that is something on his list that he's always wanted to do. But the actual moment that got me emotional is when the carpenter mentions he always wanted to build a treehouse with his son. But sadly, this dream is to remain as such, because his son was turned right before his eyes. But Akira steps in to fill that role, and helps him fulfill his dream. But Akira himself is also imparted with a stronger desire to see his parents and to repay them. I enjoy how it was a nice change of pace, seeing the brutal reality of their new world, and this time, Akira really being affected by it. Because up till now, Akira was living in his own bubble for the most part, with the other exception being when he was having a heartfelt talk with the flight attendant before she bit the dust. And to be honest, he didn't get to fully understand what happened, cause as soon as she turned, Kenshiro came around the corner saying, "Bro, I found the big ass TV, let's get out of here." And they just immediately move on. Eventually, Akira reaches his hometown, with these series of episodes being a bit of a mixed bag for me personally. I really did enjoy that each character has their own dreams they want to accomplish, with Kenshiro wanting to be a stand-up comedian, with the purpose of just wanting to make people laugh. And he's able to fulfill such by helping a little girl who lost everything except for her dog, finally cracking a smile and laughing. Shizuku discovers an old dream she had like Akira, and wanting to be a doctor and helping people out, and she gets to by helping out the whole elderly community. But the whole other plot with the evil versions of themselves, with their own sinister list, wreaking havoc on the town, and their fights were meh to me. It feels like they were trying to do something that happened earlier in the series with Akira and his old boss, but it doesn't have the same emotional impact for me. When it came to Akira and his boss reuniting, it showed real emotional distress to Akira, sucking him back into the world he thought he escaped, and was challenging his new sense of identity and exploration. And it almost succeeded in dragging him back to his monochrome world of mental exhaustion. That is, if it wasn't for the power of friendship. And some zombies mobbing the compound. I think there were almost 100 of them.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Pivoting in life and doing something new is nerve-wracking, especially to us as people. We're afraid of the unknown, and it's easy to fall back into habits and environments that may not be all that beneficial. But take those leaps and chances and chase for life, because it may not be today, it may be 60 years from now, but eventually everything comes to an end, and sadly, we will all kick the bucket. So my question to you is, when it's finally time, how far will you have gone to cross off everything in your list?